Josh Gates is one of the most trusted names in exploration television, host of Expedition Unknown for over a decade, executive producer of Expedition X, built his entire career on credibility and authenticity, never controversial, always played by the rules, until now. 2 weeks ago, reports emerged that Josh Gates leaked footage from a banned Expedition X episode. Footage Discovery Channel refused to air. Content too disturbing for television. The network wanted it buried forever. But Josh felt the public deserved to see it. Subscribe because what's on that leaked footage will shock you. Where Phil Torres and Heather Amaro were investigating. What they encountered that night. Why Discovery pulled the episode completely. The team's disturbing reactions caught on camera. Why Josh risked everything to leak it. What experts say about the evidence. And why it's darker than anyone thought. This is the banned Expedition X footage that almost stayed hidden forever. Expedition X is a spin-off from Expedition Unknown that premiered on Discovery Channel in 2020. The show is hosted by Phil Torres, a biologist and explorer, and Heather Amaro, a paranormal investigator. Josh Gates serves as executive producer. The show investigates cryptids, paranormal phenomena, and unexplained mysteries worldwide, blending science with supernatural investigation. Unlike Ghost Adventure's theatrical approach, Expedition X uses scientific methodology with less drama and more authenticity. Phil brings biological expertise while Heather brings paranormal knowledge, creating a balance between skepticism and belief. The investigation in question was Season 4, Episode 7, scheduled to air in March 2023. It never made it to broadcast. The episode was pulled weeks before the air date with no explanation given initially. The episode was titled The Nightmare Forest and documented an investigation of Hoya Bachu Forest in a remote area of Romania. Hoya Bachu Forest is known as the Bermuda Triangle of Transylvania. The location has documented paranormal activity spanning decades, including frequent UFO sightings, strange electromagnetic readings, people disappearing without explanation, and trees growing in bizarre, unnatural patterns. Local legends about the forest go back centuries. It's considered the most haunted forest in the world by paranormal researchers. Expedition X chose this location because of multiple recent reports: hikers experiencing lost time, strange lights photographed repeatedly, constant equipment malfunctions, and locals refusing to enter the forest entirely. It was perfect for investigation. Phil was interested in potential environmental factors, while Heather focused on the paranormal history. The team assembled included Phil Torres as lead investigator, Heather Amaro as co-lead, a full production crew, a local Romanian guide who remains anonymous, and a Romanian paranormal expert consultant. They planned a 5-night investigation with state-of-the-art equipment documenting everything. The planned episode followed standard Expedition X format: research phase interviewing locals, initial daytime exploration, nighttime investigations, evidence analysis, and conclusions drawn. They expected a normal hour-long episode with nothing particularly unusual. What actually happened was catastrophic. The investigation went horribly wrong on night 3. Something was encountered in that forest. The crew was placed in genuine danger. The equipment captured everything on camera. The footage was too disturbing for broadcast standards. Discovery pulled the episode immediately and wanted all footage destroyed permanently. When footage was sent to Discovery Channel editors for standard review, they began assembling the episode, but immediately flagged serious concerns. Senior producers were called in. The legal team was consulted. Network executives watched the raw footage. A decision was made quickly and definitively. This episode would never air. Discovery's official statement cited content too intense for audience, potential liability issues, genuine safety concerns documented, and not appropriate for broadcast. The vague corporate language told viewers very little, but the message was clear: the episode was permanently dead. The specific issues were unprecedented. The footage showed crew members in genuine distress with panic attacks caught on camera. Screaming and terror were documented extensively. This wasn't typical paranormal show drama where investigators act scared for ratings. This was real fear and real trauma. The content was too intense to be considered entertainment. It crossed the line from investigation to survival documentation, and the network couldn't ethically air it. Legal liability concerns were massive. The crew had been put in a genuinely dangerous situation. Proper safety protocols weren't followed. Medical attention was required for multiple crew members. Psychological trauma occurred and was documented. Workers' compensation claims were possible. Insurance issues arose. Discovery was exposed legally. Airing the episode would be admitting negligence and inviting lawsuits. The content violated Discovery's broadcast standards. The network has specific limits on violence and disturbing content. This footage exceeded those limits significantly. What was captured on camera was too graphic and too real. It wasn't entertainment anymore, but rather a documentary of trauma that couldn't be edited appropriately for television audiences. The unexplained elements made the network extremely uncomfortable. The footage shows things that cannot be explained by current scientific understanding. Equipment captured anomalies that challenge our comprehension of reality. Discovery was uncomfortable with the implications of what was shown on camera. Airing it would raise too many questions the network couldn't answer, and didn't want to attempt addressing. The episode would damage Expedition X's carefully built brand. The show's reputation was built on credibility and scientific approach. This episode was too extreme and would make the show seem exploitative or sensationalistic. The network made the decision to protect the brand by burying the episode entirely. The crew's medical condition after filming was documented extensively. Phil Torres was affected severely. Heather Amaro was traumatized. Multiple camera crew members needed professional counseling. The local guide disappeared after filming and hasn't been found. Everyone showed PTSD symptoms. Medical documentation exists. Airing the episode would expose all of this, making Discovery liable for damages. The footage appeared online 2 weeks ago through an anonymous upload to multiple platforms simultaneously. It's 17 minutes of raw footage that immediately went viral. Discovery tried removing it through copyright strikes, but the Streisand effect made it spread faster. It's now everywhere and cannot be stopped. The opening sequence shows the team entering the forest at night with Phil and Heather leading. Night vision cameras are active, and everything seems normal initially. There's casual conversation as they set up base camp and perform equipment checks. It's a standard investigation start that gives no hint of what's coming. The first anomaly occurs at the 3-minute mark. All equipment dies simultaneously. Cameras, radios, everything. The batteries were fully charged but all drained instantly. The team switches to backup gear, but the backup equipment dies too. Only one camera continues recording, capturing everything that follows. The atmosphere change is dramatic and immediate. Temperature drops drastically with visible breath suddenly appearing. It was 60 degrees Fahrenheit, but feels like 30 degrees within seconds. The forest goes completely silent with no insects, no wind, nothing. The unnatural quiet is obvious. The team notices immediately that something is very wrong. Phil's reaction at the 7-minute mark is telling. He suddenly stops walking and asks, "Did you hear that?" There's a sound like whispers coming from all directions. The language is unknown. Not Romanian, not any recognizable language. The whispers are getting progressively louder. Strange lights appear in the trees at 9 minutes. Orange and red orbs move with apparent intelligence. They're not fireflies or drones. The lights respond to the team's movements. When the investigators move, the lights move correspondingly. They're getting closer and surrounding the team systematically. Heather's experience at 11 minutes is the most disturbing. She screams suddenly, "Something touched me!" A visible mark appears on her arm, 3 scratches appearing while the camera watches. No one is near her. The scratches start bleeding immediately. Her terror is completely genuine. The breakdown begins at 13 minutes. Phil yells, "We need to leave now!" The crew starts running but can't find the way out. The forest looks completely different. Known paths have disappeared. Complete disorientation sets in. Panic consumes everyone. Multiple people are screaming simultaneously. The encounter at 15 minutes shows the camera catching something. A large figure in the trees with non-human proportions. It's moving impossibly fast between trees. Eyes reflect the camera light. The figure is approximately 8 feet tall. Then the footage cuts to black abruptly. Phil Torres is normally calm, scientific and analytical during investigations, but the leaked footage shows him absolutely terrified. His voice shakes uncontrollably. His hands tremble visibly on camera. "This isn't right. Nothing about this is right," he repeats. He's trying desperately to stay professional, but fear is overwhelming him. He becomes protective of the crew, prioritizing their safety over the investigation. In the immediate aftermath, Phil refused to return to the forest. This was the first time in his career he quit a location mid-investigation. He was visibly shaken for days afterward. He couldn't sleep and had nightmares about the experience. "I've investigated hundreds of locations, never experienced anything like that," he later stated. The experience genuinely changed him. Heather Amaro has investigated the paranormal for years and has seen a lot in her career. But this experience broke her completely. The scratches appeared on her arm while the camera was recording. No explanation is possible for what happened. Physical attack was documented in real time. "I felt something grab me," she said during the footage. She required immediate medical treatment. Heather's lasting effects were severe. The scratches took weeks to heal properly. Infection developed despite treatment. Doctors were confused by the pattern of the wounds. Not animal, not human, not anything they recognized. She still has permanent scars today. She references Romania very sparingly in interviews. She's clearly traumatized and won't discuss details publicly. The camera crew's reactions are equally telling. Multiple professional crew members who filmed everything are shown in genuine panic. They're screaming, crying, and running through the forest completely lost and disoriented. These are professionals in real survival mode, not acting. The local Romanian guide who led them into the forest vanished completely during the event. The team couldn't find him despite searching. They eventually found their way out, but the guide was never located. He remains missing to this day. The Romanian paranormal expert who consulted stated afterward, "I warned them. Locals know better. That forest is cursed. People don't come back, or they come back changed." He refused to elaborate further and was clearly frightened. Josh Gates watched the footage immediately and called Phil personally asking, "Are you okay?" He showed concern for his team, but also recognized the historical significance. "This is important evidence. People need to see this," he believed from the beginning. Discovery learned about the leak within hours as social media alerted them to the spreading footage. Millions of views accumulated quickly. The legal team was activated immediately. Crisis management mode began. The PR department scrambled for response, but containment was already impossible. The official statement was carefully worded. Discovery Channel is aware of unauthorized footage release. Episode was never approved for broadcast. Concerned for crew safety and privacy. Investigating source of leak. Taking appropriate legal action. It was standard corporate response revealing nothing substantial. Discovery attempted to remove the footage through copyright strikes on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. But the Streisand effect kicked in immediately. Removing content made it spread faster as people downloaded and re-uploaded everywhere. The footage cannot be stopped now. Legal action is being threatened. Discovery is investigating who leaked the material. NDA violations are extremely serious with financial penalties and career-ending consequences. Lawsuits are being prepared. But the leak was anonymous, making it hard to prove who did it. Industry insiders point directly to Josh Gates. He's the only person with both motive and access. He wanted the episode aired, but the network refused. Josh is known for integrity and transparency. Would he violate an NDA? Evidence increasingly suggests yes. The upload timing was suspicious, occurring right after Josh's podcast episode discussing censorship in TV. The leak was anonymous but sophisticated, suggesting someone with technical knowledge. The footage is raw edit quality that only producers possess. Josh is the executive producer with full access. Discovery cannot prove Josh leaked it, but suspicions are strong. The relationship is now severely strained. Trust is damaged, perhaps permanently. Future projects are questioned and listed as under review. Josh's entire career is at risk for doing what he felt was right. Expedition X's future is uncertain. Season 5 was in production but is now paused indefinitely. The network is reviewing all content with stricter oversight demanded. Phil and Heather are caught in the middle. Their show has been jeopardized by footage they didn't leak themselves. Public reaction exploded. The paranormal community called it most credible evidence ever and finally proof of something. Skeptics analyze it frame by frame. Some call it fake, but most say it's real. The debate rages across social media. Everyone has an opinion, and mainstream media is covering the story extensively beyond just paranormal communities. Hoya Bachu Forest is located near Cluj-Napoca, Romania, covering roughly 250 hectares. Strange activity has been documented since the 1960s. The forest was named after a shepherd who disappeared there with 200 sheep. Neither was ever found, and the legend began. Scientific anomalies are extensively documented. Vegetation grows in bizarre, twisted patterns throughout the forest. A circular clearing exists in the center where nothing grows despite soil tests showing nothing wrong. Plants simply refuse to grow there. Electromagnetic readings are consistently abnormal. Compasses spin wildly and don't function properly inside the forest boundaries. Multiple disappearances are documented. People enter and vanish completely. Some are found days later with no memory of the missing time, a classic lost time phenomenon. Others are never found at all. Search parties actively avoid entering the forest because it's considered too dangerous. The UFO connection is well established. Frequent sightings occur with extensive photographic evidence. A famous 1968 photograph captured by a biologist shows a disc-shaped craft clearly. Multiple witnesses have reported objects that appear on military radar. The Romanian military acknowledges the sightings but cannot explain them. Paranormal reports are constant and consistent. Apparitions are seen regularly throughout the forest. Voice recordings capture unexplained sounds. Electronic voice phenomena occur frequently. Faces appear in photographs taken inside the forest. Physical sensations are commonly reported, including feeling watched, feeling touched, overwhelming fear, and physical illness afterward. Local Romanian beliefs run deep. People actively avoid the forest, calling it a portal to another world and gateway for demons. They believe it's cursed by ancient people based on indigenous legends predating Christianity. This deep-rooted fear is passed through generations and taken very seriously. Previous investigations by Ghost Adventures in 2016 experienced equipment failures and strange occurrences, though nothing approached the severity of what Expedition X encountered. Other teams have tried investigating and most turn back. Those who don't turn back invariably regret not doing so. Expedition X ignored all warnings. Locals begged them not to enter. Previous investigators cautioned strongly against it, but production wanted compelling content and ratings drive decisions. Risk assessment was clearly inadequate. They should have listened to the warnings. Whatever exists in that forest actively doesn't want people there. It's intelligent, potentially malevolent, and genuinely dangerous. Multiple forensic video analysts examined the leaked footage frame by frame, looking for editing, CGI, or manipulation. No evidence of tampering was found. The footage appears completely authentic. This wasn't staged. Reactions are genuine. Fear can't be faked like this, experts concluded. The figure in the trees was enhanced and stabilized for analysis. It shows a large bipedal shape approximately 8 feet tall moving between trees with incredible speed. The proportions are wrong for human anatomy. The arms are too long. The movement is too fast for any known animal. Analysis concludes it's consistent with unknown primate species. Photometric analysis of the lights revealed they're not conventional light sources. They're not drones, aircraft, or any known technology. No heat signature is detected. The lights move in physically impossible patterns while responding intelligently to human presence. Experts state no known explanation exists. Medical professionals examined Heather's scratch marks, 3 parallel marks with spacing suggesting a very large hand. The spacing is too wide for human hands and not consistent with any known animal. The marks appeared while being filmed with no one near her. Medical conclusion: genuinely unexplained injury. Audio analysis enhanced and isolated the whispers heard on camera. The sounds are not any known language. Computer analysis is inconclusive. The whispers sound similar to ancient linguistic patterns but cannot be translated by any available database. Origin: unknown. The electromagnetic phenomena that drained all batteries simultaneously would require enormous power. All equipment was fully charged. Everything drained in seconds. No visible power source exists. Electromagnetic experts state unprecedented in field investigations. Can't explain it scientifically. Temperature documentation shows visible breath appearing suddenly. A temperature drop of 30 degrees Fahrenheit occurred in seconds, not gradually. No weather event explains it. The drop was localized to the team while surrounding areas were unaffected. Scientists conclude violates thermodynamics. Shouldn't be possible. Phil Torres eventually commented publicly, "I'm a scientist. I believe in evidence. I saw something that night that challenges everything I know. I can't explain it, but it happened. The footage proves it." Paranormal researchers analyzed the footage as consistent with negative entity encounter, possibly demonic or malevolent. Physical manifestation is rare but documented. Heather called it a textbook case of dangerous haunting. Even skeptics admit the footage is compelling. If fake, it's the best ever created, they concede. Josh Gates watched the footage when it first arrived and immediately recognized its significance. "This is important. Most compelling evidence I've seen in 20 years, he stated internally. He wanted to air the episode and argued passionately with the network. "Public deserves to see this," he insisted repeatedly. He lost that argument completely. The network meeting was heated. Josh argued, "This is why we do this work." Network executives countered, "This is a liability nightmare." Josh pressed, "We have responsibility to truth." The network responded, "We have responsibility to shareholders." The fundamental disagreement couldn't be resolved through compromise. Josh wrestled with an ethical struggle for months. He had signed an NDA and given his word, but he also believes deeply in transparency. He built his career on credibility and authenticity. This footage proves something extraordinary exists. Hiding it felt morally wrong. Corporate interests versus public interest created impossible conflict. What matters more? He struggled with the decision constantly. The tipping point came from Phil Torres' continued PTSD symptoms. They went through that trauma for nothing. The episode won't even air. Their experience means nothing if buried, Josh realized. He felt responsibility to honor their experience by sharing the truth with the world. After the leak, Josh posted on social media, "I believe in transparency. The public deserves truth. Sometimes rules need breaking for the greater good. Whatever consequences come, I accept them." This statement basically confirmed he leaked the footage intentionally. The consequences he faces are severe. Discovery will likely sue for contract violations. Financial penalties are possible and substantial. His shows could be canceled entirely. Expedition Unknown is at risk. Expedition X is definitely affected negatively. His career could be completely over. Josh knew all of this before leaking. He did it anyway because some things are bigger than career. This is evidence of something extraordinary, maybe dangerous. People need to know what's out there, even if it costs me everything. It was principle over profit, truth over career security. The paranormal community praised Josh extensively. Did the right thing. Network censorship is wrong. Truth matters more, they declared. A petition to Discovery not to punish Josh gathered thousands of signatures. Phil and Heather both publicly supported the leak despite personal costs. Discovery hasn't fired Josh, but all projects are paused. Expedition X is canceled. Legal battles are beginning with Discovery suing for NDA violations. Josh's career hangs in the balance. The footage transformed the paranormal field, with universities studying it academically. Romanian authorities restricted access to Hoya Bachu forest. The missing guide remains unfound. Josh is creating an independent crowd-funded documentary. Phil reflected, "That night changed me. I'll never go back. Some places should be left alone." The leaked footage sparked mainstream debate about what's being hidden and whether the public deserves truth regardless of corporate interests. Josh Gates just walked away from Expedition X. No warning, no explanation to fans, just a cryptic statement about prioritizing his safety and his family. And now rumors are circulating about what might have happened during their most recent filming expedition. Reports of an incident involving a Bigfoot-like creature in the Pacific Northwest, claims that something left the most fearless explorer on television genuinely shaken. Now let's be clear, nothing is confirmed at this moment. Discovery hasn't released official details. The crew is staying silent, but alleged insider sources have been sharing details that, if true, would explain everything. Subscribe and hit the bell because we're breaking down every rumor, alleged detail, and claimed insider account about what may have happened during that expedition. According to circulating rumors, it happened 3 weeks ago during what was supposed to be a standard Expedition X investigation. The team was allegedly filming in a remote area of Washington state, following up on recent Bigfoot sightings reported by local forestry workers. Multiple witnesses, consistent descriptions, fresh footprints documented by credible sources. Exactly the kind of case Josh has built his career investigating. Claims suggest the team consisted of Josh, his co-host Jessica Chobot, Phil Torres, and a production crew of 8 people. They'd reportedly set up base camp in a valley known for decades of Sasquatch activity. By all alleged accounts, the first 2 days were productive but unremarkable. Footprints supposedly found and documented, strange vocalizations allegedly recorded at distance. Then came the third night. According to unverified sources, Josh and Phil decided to investigate an area about 2 miles from base camp where thermal drones had allegedly detected heat signatures. Jessica reportedly stayed behind to monitor equipment. The plan was supposedly simple: hike in, document whatever they found, return by midnight. Rumor has it they never made it to midnight. At 10:47 p.m., base camp allegedly received a frantic radio transmission from Josh. The audio was reportedly chaotic. Claims suggest certain words came through: contact, close, moving fast, Phil's injured. Then the transmission allegedly cut to static. When communication supposedly resumed, Josh's voice was different, shaken, urgent, allegedly calling for immediate evacuation. According to these reports, the production coordinator sent the entire crew to extract Josh and Phil. What they allegedly found was equipment scattered, Phil on the ground with what's claimed to be a head wound, and Josh standing guard, reportedly refusing to move until the entire group was together. But here's where the rumors get interesting. The cameras were allegedly still rolling. Everything that supposedly happened was reportedly captured on multiple devices. And what those cameras allegedly captured, according to anonymous sources claiming to have seen footage, would be the most compelling Bigfoot evidence ever recorded, if true, if any of this actually happened. And these rumors suggest Josh Gates, a man who's spent 2 decades exploring over 100 countries, investigating everything from lost treasures to paranormal phenomena, decided he's done. Not with television, not with exploration, but allegedly with putting himself in situations where he might encounter something like what was reportedly in those woods. Because according to these unconfirmed claims, whatever he supposedly saw wasn't a mystery to be solved. It was a threat to be survived. We need to be clear, we haven't seen this footage ourselves. Discovery allegedly has it locked down tight, but we've heard from sources claiming to have viewed it, and their descriptions, if accurate, are disturbing. What follows is based on those unconfirmed accounts. The footage allegedly begins normally, Josh and Phil hiking through dense forest at night. Standard narration, Phil supposedly scanning with thermal imaging. Around the 18-minute mark, Phil allegedly gets a thermal hit, something large, approximately 400 yards ahead. They reportedly discuss approaching, and Josh makes the decision to close the gap carefully. As they allegedly get closer, the thermal signature supposedly becomes clearer, upright, bipedal. At approximately 200 yards, sources claim the figure stops and turns toward them, not slowly, but deliberately. Phil allegedly says, "I think it knows we're here." Josh's rumored response, "Good, let's see if it'll show itself." This is allegedly when things go wrong. Instead of fleeing, the thermal signature reportedly begins approaching them, fast. Sources describe the speed as terrifying given the dense terrain. Josh supposedly makes the call to back out immediately. They start retreating, but the figure allegedly keeps gaining ground. Then comes what sources describe as a vocalization, allegedly loud, complex, and close. Both men visibly react according to claims, stopping their retreat. In those seconds, the gap supposedly closes to within 50 yards. Then, according to reports, an object flies past Josh's head. A rock, later identified as approximately softball-sized, allegedly impacts a tree with enough force to embed in the bark. Both men allegedly go to ground, and sources claim that with cameras at ground level, they capture something. All 3 sources describe this the same way, if their accounts are true. Clear footage for approximately 4 to 5 seconds, not thermal. Direct view, illuminated by camera lights, of something large, covered in reddish-brown hair, with a face showing features that allegedly don't match any known primate, and eyes that supposedly reflect the camera light. The figure then allegedly moves laterally, circling their position. Phil supposedly tries to track it with thermal. Josh is reportedly reaching for rocks. The circling continues for 30-40 seconds according to claims. Then another rock, allegedly larger, comes from a different direction. It reportedly strikes Phil on the side of the head, dropping him immediately. Josh allegedly goes to Phil and makes the radio call for help, while the thermal camera supposedly still shows that massive heat signature maintaining position, watching them. The standoff allegedly continues for nearly 2 minutes before the figure moves away, but thermal signatures reportedly remain at the edge of detection range, as if it was watching to ensure they left. Phil Torres required immediate medical attention. The rock that struck him left a laceration that needed 12 stitches and caused a concussion significant enough that he was hospitalized overnight for observation. But it's not the severity of the injury that's remarkable, it's the circumstances and the projectile itself. The rock was recovered from the scene, a smooth river stone weighing approximately 4 pounds, the kind of rock you'd find in a riverbed, not typically lying around on a forest floor, which raises an immediate question. Where did it come from? Wildlife doesn't carry rocks. Bears don't throw objects. The presence of that specific type of stone in that location suggests it was brought there deliberately, but more concerning is the throwing mechanics required to cause the injury Phil sustained. A biomechanics expert consulted by the production estimated that to throw a 4-pound rock with enough force to cause that level of injury from a distance of approximately 40-50 feet requires strength beyond normal human capability. The throwing motion would also need to be coordinated and aimed, not a random toss. Rock throwing is actually well documented in Bigfoot encounter reports. It's considered a signature behavior, territorial warning behavior reported consistently across different geographic regions and different time periods. Researchers theorize it serves as a way to establish dominance and warn intruders without direct physical confrontation. The fact that Phil was injured by a thrown rock fits perfectly into established Bigfoot behavioral patterns. Phil's medical records document the injury, but the official incident report filed with Discovery Channel is deliberately vague about the cause. It states he was struck by a falling object during nighttime investigation in rough terrain. No mention of the rock being thrown, no reference to the encounter, just carefully worded language designed to minimize liability while technically being truthful. Phil himself has been completely silent about the incident. He hasn't posted on social media about Expedition X since it happened. When reached by fans asking about the injury, his responses have been vague. Accident during filming, recovering well, thanks for the concern. The kind of responses that say nothing while appearing to say something. But sources close to Phil say he's struggling with what happened. Not just physically, the concussion symptoms resolved within a week, but psychologically. Phil is a scientist. He's an entomologist and biologist who approaches investigations with academic rigor, having an experience that defies his scientific understanding of what's possible in North American wilderness has been profoundly disorienting. The injury serves as physical proof that something happened. Medical records don't lie. A 4-pound river stone embedded in the bark of a tree doesn't appear by accident, and Phil's concussion isn't a psychological reaction or misperception. Something with significant strength threw a heavy object with enough accuracy and force to injure a human being. That's not folklore. That's documented fact. Phil Torres allegedly required immediate medical attention. According to claims, the rock that struck him left a laceration requiring 12 stitches and caused a concussion significant enough for overnight hospitalization. But reports suggest it's not the severity that's remarkable, it's the circumstances and the projectile itself. The rock was supposedly recovered from the scene. Sources describe it as a smooth river stone weighing approximately 4 pounds, the kind you'd find in a riverbed, not typically on a forest floor, which allegedly raises an immediate question. Where did it come from? Wildlife doesn't carry rocks. Bears don't throw objects. But according to rumors, what's more concerning is the throwing mechanics required. A biomechanics expert allegedly consulted by production estimated that throwing a 4-pound rock with enough force to cause Phil's injury from 40-50 feet requires strength beyond normal human capability. The throw would also need to be coordinated and aimed, not random. Rock throwing is actually well documented in Bigfoot encounter reports, researchers note. It's considered signature territorial behavior reported consistently across different regions and time periods. If true, the fact that Phil was injured by a thrown rock fits perfectly into established Bigfoot behavioral patterns that have been claimed for decades. Phil's alleged medical records document the injury, but sources claim the official incident report filed with Discovery is deliberately vague. It supposedly states he was struck by a falling object during nighttime investigation in rough terrain. No mention of throwing, no reference to any encounter, just carefully worded language designed to minimize liability. According to circulating reports, the rescue team that responded consisted of Jessica Chobot, 3 camera operators, 2 producers, and the production coordinator. 8 people total, and rumors suggest every single one of them allegedly saw something during the extraction. As they supposedly approached Josh and Phil's location, claims suggest they began hearing vocalizations, not the single scream from the initial encounter, but ongoing calls that seemed to come from multiple directions. Sources describe it as if they were being tracked by more than one individual, coordinating movements around them. Jessica, allegedly leading the group, reportedly made the decision to keep everyone together in tight formation. They moved as a unit, lights sweeping the forest, and according to claims, multiple cameras captured heat signatures on thermal, not just one, at least 3 distinct figures visible at various points during the hike. When they supposedly reached Josh and Phil, thermal cameras allegedly showed something disturbing. The signatures that had been tracking the rescue party had converged on their position. They were surrounded, according to reports, not closely but in a clear pattern around their location. The production coordinator allegedly made an immediate decision: extract and evacuate. No investigating. They helped Phil up and started back, and claims suggest those thermal signatures paced them the entire way back, maintaining distance but clearly following. Multiple crew members allegedly reported seeing eyeshine, eyes catching light at distances and heights that suggested something large. Not deer, not bears, something else watching them leave, if these accounts are to be believed. One camera operator, supposedly speaking anonymously, described it as the most frightening experience in 15 years of filming. Not individual moments, but the totality, the coordinated behavior, the persistent following, the sense that they were being allowed to leave rather than escape. Josh Gates has been remarkably quiet about his specific reasons for leaving Expedition X. His official statement was brief: "After much consideration, I've decided to step away from Expedition X to focus focus on other projects and spend more time with my family. Standard departure language that reveals nothing. But according to rumors, people close to Josh tell a different story. The alleged Washington State incident supposedly shook him in ways previous close calls never did. Reports suggest he keeps asking, what if Phil had been killed? The rock that allegedly struck him could have hit differently, could have caused a fatal injury. And Josh has 2 young children at home, a wife who reportedly worries every time he goes on expedition. Claims suggest there's also a philosophical component. If Bigfoot exists, these rumors say it's not just an exciting discovery, it's potentially a predator, a territorial animal with capabilities that make it genuinely dangerous. And sources allege Josh realized that chasing that mystery isn't adventure anymore. It's risk he's supposedly no longer willing to take. According to these unconfirmed reports, Josh isn't retiring from television or exploration. He's allegedly still hosting Expedition Unknown, which focuses on historical mysteries and archaeological investigations. But claims suggest he's done with active paranormal investigation that involves going into remote areas looking for creatures that might pose serious threats. If these rumors are accurate, Discovery Channel allegedly finds itself in an unprecedented situation. They supposedly have footage that would generate massive ratings, clear documentation of a Bigfoot encounter involving their most recognizable host. From a business perspective, airing this would allegedly be a ratings goldmine, but according to claims, they also have a serious liability problem. One crew member was allegedly injured seriously enough to require hospitalization. If they air footage explicitly confirming their crew was attacked by an unknown creature, sources suggest they open themselves to questions about duty of care and safety protocols. Insurance is supposedly another consideration. Production insurance for adventure shows already comes with significant premiums. If insurers allegedly determine Discovery knowingly sent crews into dangerous situations, it could affect coverage not just for Expedition X, but for their entire slate of adventure programs, according to industry observers. Then there's allegedly the question of responsibility. If Discovery airs footage they believe genuinely documents a Bigfoot encounter, they're essentially taking a position that Bigfoot exists. According to speculation, that carries implications beyond ratings, potentially triggering scientific investigation or government inquiries. Sources claim the network has been in discussions with wildlife experts, legal counsel, and possibly even government agencies. Some executives allegedly push to air it, while others advocate for keeping it archived. A compromise position supposedly being discussed involves releasing heavily edited footage with extensive disclaimers. But Josh's decision to quit allegedly complicates everything. If Discovery airs the episode after Josh left citing safety concerns, it creates a narrative that the network prioritized ratings over host safety, according to media analysts. Josh's departure supposedly gives him leverage in how this footage might be presented. The current status, according to rumors, is that Discovery has delayed the entire season. The official explanation is production schedule adjustments, but speculation suggests they're buying time to figure out how to handle this alleged episode and what it means for the show's future. As of now, if this footage exists, it allegedly remains in Discovery's possession, unaired and inaccessible. According to claims, multiple parties have requested access. Bigfoot researchers have supposedly offered to sign NDAs. Scientists have allegedly expressed interest in analyzing the thermal imaging. Even government wildlife agencies have reportedly inquired. Discovery has allegedly refused all requests. The official position, according to sources, is that any footage is part of ongoing production. But rumors suggest the network simply hasn't decided what to do with it. Legal counsel is supposedly advising caution while executives weigh risks and benefits. Some researchers allegedly argue Discovery has a moral obligation to release footage this significant, if it exists and is as compelling as claimed. Keeping it suppressed would prioritize corporate liability over potential scientific advancement. But the counter-argument is that Discovery owns any footage and has every right to make business decisions about release. There's also supposedly the question of physical evidence. The rocks allegedly thrown were reportedly collected. Phil's medical records supposedly document injuries from a thrown object. Crew members allegedly provided statement. All of this evidence would exist independent of video footage, but without Discovery releasing it to researchers, it remains isolated and unverifiable, according to claim. Leaks are theoretically possible. If the footage exists on multiple hard drives and has been viewed by numerous people, someone could potentially release it anonymously. though doing so would likely end their career and could expose them to legal consequences. But speculation suggests the temptation must be significant for people who believe this could change how science views Bigfoot. The most likely outcome, according to industry observers, is that Discovery will eventually air a heavily edited version. They'd allegedly include enough to acknowledge something happened while carefully editing around the most explicit sequences. Expert analysts would provide alternative explanations. Disclaimers would emphasize the unusual nature of the incident. Let's be absolutely clear about what we know for certain. Josh Gates has left Expedition X. That's confirmed. Phil Torres was allegedly injured during filming. That appears to be true based on his absence from social media and project schedules. Discovery has delayed the season. Also confirmed. Everything else, the details of the encounter, the footage descriptions, the crew reactions, remains unverified rumor and speculation. But rumors this consistent, from multiple alleged sources, suggest something significant happened. Whether it was exactly as described, we can't say. Whether footage as compelling as claimed actually exists, we don't know. But Josh's departure from a successful show speaks volumes. People don't walk away from careers like his without serious reasons. If even half of these rumors prove true, it represents a fundamental shift in paranormal investigation, from entertainment to genuine risk, from mystery to potential danger. The footage may eventually air, the full story may eventually be told, or this may remain one of television's most intriguing unsolved mysteries, whispered about but never fully confirmed. For now, we're left with questions. What really happened in those Washington woods? What did the cameras actually capture? And why did Josh Gates, one of television's most fearless explorers, decide some mysteries aren't worth solving? Until Discovery releases official information or Josh breaks his silence, we can only piece together the rumors and wonder what truth they might contain. Sometimes the most compelling evidence is what people choose not to show you. Josh Gates has built an empire in paranormal television. From Destination Truth to Expedition Unknown to Expedition X, he's become one of the most recognizable faces in adventure programming. But something has been happening behind the scenes that fans are just now starting to piece together. Cryptic social media posts, canceled appearances, and unusual silence from the usually charismatic host have sparked concern across the paranormal community. Industry insiders are whispering about major changes at Discovery Plus, and Josh's name keeps coming up in those conversations. What he's about to announce will change everything, not just for Expedition X, but for the entire landscape of paranormal television. Before we dive in, make sure you're subscribed because this story is developing rapidly and you won't want to miss what happens next. This is the news Josh Gates is breaking. The first warning sign came in late October when Josh Gates abruptly canceled his scheduled appearance at Paracon in Portland. Fans who had paid premium prices for meet and greets received generic apology emails citing unforeseen scheduling conflicts. This was unusual for Josh, who has built his reputation on being accessible and appreciative of his fan base. Then came the social media silence. Josh, who typically posts multiple times weekly with behind-the-scenes content and location updates, went dark for nearly 3 weeks. When he finally resurfaced, the posts felt different. Carefully curated promotional material with none of his signature humor or personal touch. Longtime followers noticed immediately. Reddit threads exploded with speculation. Where's the real Josh? One fan asked. His Instagram stories, usually filled with travel adventures and dad jokes, became sporadic and oddly formal. Industry insiders began sharing whispers at conventions and on private message boards. A production assistant who worked on Expedition Unknown posted cryptically about massive changes coming, before quickly deleting the tweet. Camera operators and location scouts started updating their LinkedIn profiles, a telltale sign that crew members were preparing for career transitions. Josh's usually active engagement with fans on Twitter stopped entirely. No responses to questions, no retweets of fan art, no interaction whatsoever. Even his traditional birthday post thanking fans came weeks late and felt rushed. Most tellingly, promotional interviews for the new Expedition X season featured Phil Torres alone, with Josh appearing only via pre-recorded segments. Something was clearly wrong, and the paranormal community was about to discover just how deep this went. Anyone who has watched Expedition X from the beginning knows the chemistry between Josh Gates and Phil Torres was the show's foundation. Their banter, mutual respect, and complementary skills made every investigation feel authentic and engaging. But careful viewers noticed a shift during Season 4. The playful back and forth became forced. Moments that should have sparked excitement felt awkward and rehearsed. In the Mothman episode, There's a notable scene where Phil makes a discovery and turns to share it with Josh, only to find him distracted and checking his phone. The camera lingers for an uncomfortable beat before cutting away. That wasn't scripted. Production sources reveal that filming schedules became increasingly chaotic. Josh would arrive late to locations, sometimes missing entire investigation setups that Phil had spent hours preparing. What used to be collaborative planning sessions became Phil working with producers while Josh participated via video calls. The Romania investigation that was supposed to film in August got pushed to October, then November, with multiple date changes that created logistical nightmares for the entire crew. On-set tension became palpable. Crew members reported overhearing heated discussions about creative direction and time commitments. Josh wanted to scale back Expedition X filming to focus on other projects. Phil, who had built his career around the show, pushed back hard. Their professional relationship, once genuine friendship, became strictly business. Watch the season 4 finale closely. During the final group discussion, Josh and Phil barely make eye contact. Their body language speaks volumes. Turned slightly away from each other, forced smiles, scripted dialogue that lacks their usual spontaneity. One crew member described the atmosphere as watching a marriage fall apart in real time. The show continued, but the magic was dying, and both men knew it. To understand Josh's decision, you need to understand the chaos happening at Discovery+. The 2022 merger between Discovery and Warner Bros. Created Warner Bros. Discovery, a massive media conglomerate with redundant programming and bloated budgets. CEO David Zaslav immediately began slashing costs. HBO Max originals were canceled mid-production. Discovery Plus shows saw budget cuts of 30 to 40%. Paranormal programming took some of the hardest hits. Ghost Adventures survived due to Zach Bagans' lower production costs and loyal fan base, but premium shows like Expedition Unknown faced serious scrutiny. Josh Gates wasn't just the star of multiple shows. He was an executive producer with significant creative control and a substantial salary. Industry sources estimate his total compensation package exceeded $2 million annually when factoring in producing fees, appearance payments, and profit participation. That made him a prime target during restructuring. Discovery executives wanted to renegotiate, offering contract extensions with reduced budgets, smaller crews, and less creative freedom. For Josh, who had spent years building his production infrastructure and creative vision, this was unacceptable. Meanwhile, streaming platforms like Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Apple TV Plus were aggressively pursuing established talent with creator-owned deals. Josh watched friends and colleagues jump ship for independent projects with full creative control and back-end participation. The writing was on the wall. Traditional cable networks were dying, and streaming was the future. But Discovery wasn't going down without a fight. Contract negotiations became contentious. Lawyers got involved. Non-compete clauses were scrutinized. Josh found himself trapped between loyalty to a network that launched his career and the opportunity to build something entirely his own in the new media landscape. Here's what Josh Gates has actually been working on while the paranormal community speculated about his absence. Multiple sources confirm he's been in deep negotiations with Amazon Prime Video for a multi-year, creator-owned production deal worth an estimated $15 million. This isn't just another hosting gig. Josh is launching Gates Entertainment Group, an independent production company with full ownership of all intellectual property. The flagship project is a global adventure series tentatively titled Uncharted that combines elements of Expedition Unknown with high-budget documentary filmmaking on par with Planet Earth or Our Planet. We're talking cinematic drone footage, weeks-long expeditions instead of rushed 3-day shoots, and access to locations that Discovery's budget could never accommodate. Josh has been assembling a dream team: Oscar-nominated cinematographers, award-winning editors, and top-tier sound designers. He's poached key crew members from his Discovery shows, offering equity stakes in the production company rather than just salaries. This is a complete reimagining of adventure television. Episodes will run 60 to 90 minutes instead of the 42-minute cable format that requires constant commercial breaks and manufactured cliffhangers. The content will be designed for binge watching, with serialized investigations spanning multiple episodes. Amazon is betting big on this because their data shows adventure and mystery content performs exceptionally well internationally. Josh's global brand recognition and multilingual capabilities make him perfect for worldwide distribution. But here's the kicker: the deal includes a paranormal investigation component separate from the main series. Josh isn't abandoning that world, he's revolutionizing it. Imagine Expedition X, but with 3-week investigations, thermal imaging technology that costs 6 figures, and consultation with actual scientists and historians instead of just psychics and local legends. No more rushed EVP sessions in the dark. This is methodical, well-researched paranormal investigation with real academic rigor. The contract also gives Josh unprecedented creative control. Amazon's hands-off approach means no network executives demanding changes, no advertiser concerns limiting content, and no censorship of controversial topics. Josh can finally investigate locations and stories that Discovery deemed too risky or expensive. The announcement is scheduled for early next year, once legal teams finalize the Discovery exit and non-compete agreements. But word has leaked, and the industry is already buzzing about what this means for adventure television's future. Expedition Unknown is Josh Gates's baby. He created the show, developed its format, and spent a decade building it into Discovery's most successful adventure series. Walking away isn't simple, and contractually it's even more complicated. Josh currently has obligations for 12 more episodes spanning 2 seasons that were greenlit before merger chaos began. Discovery is holding him to every single episode outlined in his contract. They know Expedition Unknown without Josh Gates is worthless, so they're leveraging the show to extract maximum value before he leaves. Here's the current situation. Josh will complete season 12, which is already in post-production and scheduled to air in early 2025. These episodes were filmed before his Amazon negotiations intensified, and they represent classic Expedition Unknown. Josh traveling to exotic locations, investigating historical mysteries, and delivering the enthusiastic narration fans love. But season 13 is where things get messy. Discovery wants 12 episodes. Josh is contractually obligated to deliver, but his heart isn't in it anymore. Filming has been contentious. Budget cuts mean smaller crews, shorter location shoots, and less ambitious investigations. Josh is essentially going through the motions, fulfilling legal requirements while mentally checked out and focused on his Amazon project. Production insiders describe a funeral atmosphere on set. Everyone knows these are the final episodes, and the energy reflects that reality. Discovery executives are desperately trying to develop an Expedition Unknown successor show or find a replacement host, but focus groups have been brutal. Test audiences simply don't connect with other hosts the same way. Josh Gates is Expedition Unknown. His personality, his storytelling ability, and his genuine curiosity are irreplaceable. Without him, the show is just generic travel content in an oversaturated market. There are rumors Discovery might try to continue Expedition Unknown with rotating guest hosts, similar to how Top Gear attempted to replace Jeremy Clarkson. That experiment failed spectacularly, and industry analysts predict the same outcome here. The show's loyal fan base tunes in for Josh, not the concept. Some episodes might feature Phil Torres or other Discovery personalities stepping in, but viewer retention will plummet. Josh's departure creates a massive hole in Discovery's programming lineup. Expedition Unknown consistently ranked in their top 5 shows for viewer engagement and international distribution value. Losing it weakens Discovery Plus significantly, especially when competing against Netflix and Amazon's growing adventure content libraries. For Josh, finishing these contractual obligations feels like closure on an important chapter of his career, while simultaneously being professionally exhausting as he tries to serve 2 masters, honoring old commitments while building his future. Phil Torres found out about Josh's plans the way most of us did, through industry gossip and leaked information, not from Josh directly. That tells you everything about how their relationship deteriorated. Phil built his entire television career around Expedition X. Before partnering with Josh, he was a respected wildlife biologist and science communicator with occasional TV appearances, but nothing approaching mainstream recognition. Expedition X made him a paranormal television personality with a dedicated fan base. Now that foundation is crumbling, and Phil is left scrambling to figure out his next move. Discovery initially planned to cancel Expedition X entirely once Josh's departure became inevitable. Why invest in a paranormal show without the star who brings the audience? But Phil fought back hard. He pitched a complete show reboot with himself as the solo host, bringing in rotating expert guests for each investigation. Think of it as Phil Torres Investigates, rather than the buddy dynamic that defined the original format. Discovery was skeptical but agreed to a trial season with a significantly reduced budget, 6 episodes instead of the usual 12, and Phil had to accept a lower salary and co-executive producer responsibilities without additional pay. It's a tough pill to swallow, doing more work for less money while living in Josh Gates' shadow. The retooled show faces enormous challenges. Expedition X succeeded because of Josh and Phil's chemistry and complementary skills. Josh brought charisma charisma and storytelling experience. Phil provided scientific credibility and genuine expertise. Without Josh, Phil needs to carry episodes entirely on his personality, and early test footage suggests he struggles with that transition. He's knowledgeable and enthusiastic, but lacks Josh's natural on-camera magnetism and comedic timing that kept audiences engaged during slower investigation moments. Phil is also dealing with fan backlash. Online communities are divided between those who support Phil and blame Josh for abandoning the show, and those who see Phil as a replacement rather than a legitimate solo host. It's an impossible position that Phil never asked for but must now navigate. Behind the scenes, Phil is exploring other opportunities. He's been in talks with National Geographic about wildlife documentary projects that leverage his biology background. Travel Channel has expressed interest in a science-based paranormal show that positions Phil as a skeptical investigator who debunks fraudulent claims while remaining open to genuine, unexplained phenomena. These negotiations reveal Phil's smart career strategy: diversify away from dependence on Josh Gates and Discovery. If Expedition X fails without Josh, Phil needs alternatives lined up. Meanwhile, the awkwardness between Phil and Josh is palpable at industry events. They maintain professional courtesy but avoid genuine interaction, a sad ending to what once seemed like authentic friendship built through shared adventures investigating the unknown together. When news of Josh's departure leaked, the paranormal television community erupted with opinions, and they weren't all supportive. Zach Bagans was among the first to respond, posting a cryptic Instagram story that read, "Real investigators stay loyal to the craft, not the paycheck." While he never mentioned Josh by name, everyone understood the implication. Zach has built ghost adventures by staying with Travel Channel for over 15 years, and he clearly sees Josh's move as mercenary behavior that prioritizes business over passion. The two have always had a complicated relationship, mutual respect mixed with professional rivalry and fundamentally different approaches to investigation. Amy Bruni and Adam Berry from Kindred Spirits took a more diplomatic stance, wishing Josh well while emphasizing their commitment to Travel Channel and Warner Bros. Discovery. Their measured response makes sense considering they're hoping for contract renewals and can't afford to alienate network executives. But privately, sources say they're frustrated that Josh's high-profile exit might trigger budget cuts affecting their shows as Discovery tightens spending to compensate for lost flagship programming. Steve Gonsalves and Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters offered genuine support, tweeting congratulations about Josh's new venture and praising his courage to pursue creative independence. Having left their own original show over contract disputes years ago, they understand the difficult decision Josh faced between financial security and artistic freedom. Their public endorsement carries weight because they successfully rebuilt careers after leaving sci-fi, proving that life exists beyond network television contracts. The fan reaction has been intensely divided and often brutal. Josh's social media mentions are flooded with betrayal accusations from longtime viewers who feel abandoned. "You built your career on Discovery's platform and now you're walking away?" one viral tweet demanded. Others celebrated his bold move, arguing that talented creators deserve ownership of their work and shouldn't be trapped by corporate contracts that limit their potential. Reddit became a battlefield of competing Josh Gates megathreads, analyzing every aspect of the situation. YouTube paranormal channels cranked out reaction videos with clickbait titles ranging from "Josh Gates destroys his legacy" to "Josh Gates makes genius business move." Everyone had an opinion, and most weren't shy about sharing it. The controversy extended beyond paranormal circles into broader entertainment industry discussions about streaming disruption, creator rights, and the collapse of traditional cable television models. Trade publications like Variety and Hollywood Reporter ran features positioning Josh's departure as symptomatic of larger industry shifts, where established talent increasingly rejects network deals for streaming independence and intellectual property ownership that builds long-term wealth rather than just collecting paychecks. The leaked details about Josh's Amazon project paint a picture of something genuinely revolutionary in adventure television. Uncharted will operate on a budget reportedly exceeding $2 million per episode, nearly 5 times what Discovery allocated for Expedition Unknown's final seasons. That money translates into production quality that rivals theatrical documentaries rather than cable reality programming. We're talking red digital cinema cameras capturing in 8K resolution, professional drone operators shooting cinematic establishing shots, and color grading that makes every frame look like National Geographic photography. Josh has partnered with several A-list production talents who bring serious credibility. James Cameron's documentary team is consulting on underwater expedition episodes. Werner Herzog's longtime cinematographer is attached as director of photography for select investigations. The audio design team won an Emmy for their work on Planet Earth 2. This isn't television talent. These are film industry professionals who typically work on projects that premiere at Sundance and Tribeca, not shows that stream on demand. The format itself breaks from traditional adventure television structure. Instead of standalone 42-minute episodes, Uncharted will feature serialized arcs spanning 4 to 6 episodes per investigation. Imagine spending an entire month in Papua New Guinea researching cargo cult origins, with episodes that build on previous discoveries, rather than resetting each week. This allows for genuine depth and complexity impossible in Discovery's commercial break-friendly format that demands manufactured suspense every 8 minutes. Investigations will incorporate serious academic research. Josh is partnering with universities and research institutions, bringing actual archaeologists, anthropologists, and historians on expeditions, instead of just local guides and enthusiastic amateurs. The show will present multiple perspectives on mysteries, acknowledging uncertainty rather than forcing definitive conclusions for narrative satisfaction. This represents a more intellectually honest approach to mystery investigation that respects audience intelligence. The paranormal component operates under similar principles. Rather than rushing through locations collecting questionable EVP recordings, investigations will span weeks using state-of-the-art equipment. Thermal imaging arrays costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, seismographic monitoring to distinguish paranormal claims from environmental factors, consultation with physicists about electromagnetic phenomena before jumping to supernatural conclusions. Josh wants to bring scientific rigor to paranormal investigation while remaining open to genuinely unexplained occurrences. Amazon's global distribution strategy means Uncharted will launch simultaneously in over 200 countries with subtitles in 40 languages. The international scope allows Josh to investigate locations previously inaccessible due to Discovery's limited international production infrastructure. Filming has already begun in Mongolia, Iceland, and Peru, with expeditions planned for Antarctica, Bhutan, and remote Pacific islands. The scale and ambition dwarf anything Josh accomplished at Discovery, representing his ultimate vision, finally realized without corporate limitations constraining creative possibilities. Josh Gates leaves Discovery having fundamentally shaped adventure television for an entire generation. Before Destination Truth premiered in 2007, paranormal investigation meant grainy footage of people whispering in the dark. Josh brought humor, skepticism, and genuine storytelling craft to the genre. Expedition Unknown elevated travel programming beyond generic tourism into legitimate historical investigation with narrative depth and educational value. His influence appears in countless shows that copied his format: enthusiastic host, exotic locations, blend of education and entertainment. He legitimized adventure television as respectable programming rather than cheap reality filler. That's an impressive legacy regardless of how his Amazon gamble plays out. But some argue he's abandoning the network that gave him opportunities when he was unknown. Discovery took risks on Destination Truth and funded his growth from enthusiastic amateur to polished professional. Others see his move as smart business. Why sacrifice career opportunities for corporate interests that slashed budgets and reduced creative freedom? The real test comes when Uncharted launches. If it succeeds, Josh becomes a visionary who correctly identified streaming's future and inspired other creators to pursue independence. His legacy transforms into that of an industry disruptor. But if Uncharted fails to find an audience or doesn't deliver on its ambitious promises, Josh will be remembered as someone who overestimated his importance and made a catastrophic mistake walking away from guaranteed success. The paranormal community has long memories, and failure would permanently damage his reputation, making any television return extremely difficult. Jessica Chobot didn't disappear from Expedition X with an announcement or a goodbye. One season she was there, steady, fearless, asking the questions viewers trusted. Then suddenly, she was gone. No explanation, no farewell episode, just silence. Officially, it was a creative shift, but people who worked behind the scenes say that story doesn't come close to the truth, because Jessica wasn't just a host. She was the one slowing things down when the danger escalated. The one questioning edits that didn't match what really happened in the field, and the one who reportedly pushed back when investigations crossed crossed a line from discovery into risk for spectacle. Tonight, we're unpacking what led to her quiet exit, the investigation that changed everything, and why some footage may never be seen. If you value stories that go deeper than the surface narrative, hit subscribe now, because what happened here wasn't just a departure, it was a warning. Before her departure became a quiet mystery, Jessica Chobot was the emotional and intellectual anchor of Expedition X. She wasn't just a host reacting to strange locations or unexplained events. She was the connective tissue between the investigation and the audience. While others focused on instruments and theories, Jessica focused on context, human impact, and what the evidence actually meant. That balance is what made viewers trust her. From the earliest episodes, crew members noticed something different about how she worked. When cameras stopped rolling, she didn't disappear to reset for the next scene. She stayed. She reviewed audio logs, rewatched thermal footage, and asked for raw data instead of highlight reels. According to multiple people who worked in production, Jessica was the only on-camera talent who regularly requested access to uncut material after investigations wrapped. Not because she wanted more screen time, but because she wanted to understand what really happened. Her background mattered here. Jessica came into Expedition X with years of experience in investigative media, not just paranormal entertainment. She understood how easily a narrative could drift away from facts once editing began. That awareness made her cautious in ways others weren't. She often questioned whether a reaction shot truly reflected the moment it was attached to, or whether an equipment malfunction was being framed too mysteriously for what it actually was. This didn't make her difficult. It made her precise. Crew members have said she rarely raised her voice or caused confrontation. Instead, she asked quiet, uncomfortable questions. Why did this cut remove the evacuation discussion? Why wasn't this safety concern mentioned on camera? Why does this moment feel bigger in the edit than it felt in real time? As the show gained popularity, those questions became more frequent and more inconvenient. Jessica believed the strength of Expedition X wasn't fear, but credibility. She wanted the audience to feel uncertainty without manipulation, tension without exaggeration. That philosophy shaped her on-screen presence. Calm, grounded, observant. She didn't need to dramatize the unknown. She respected it. But that same commitment began to place her at odds with the direction the show was quietly moving toward. Because as ratings grew, so did the pressure to escalate. And Jessica was standing directly in the way of that escalation. What started as dedication would soon be viewed as resistance. And that resistance, whether she realized it or not, was already putting her on the outside. As Expedition X grew in popularity, the tone of the series began to shift in subtle but important ways. What had started as a careful investigation-first program slowly leaned toward faster pacing, higher stakes, and moments designed to feel more intense on screen. To most viewers, the change was almost invisible, but behind the scenes, it was impossible to miss. Production meetings increasingly focused on energy, impact, and payoff. Episodes needed stronger hooks and more dramatic beats to compete in a crowded paranormal television landscape. According to multiple crew accounts, she was one of the first to question whether the show was drifting away from its original purpose. She didn't object to tension or suspense. What bothered her was when the narrative began to move faster than the evidence. In meetings, she reportedly asked whether certain moments were being emphasized because they were meaningful or because they played better on camera. Those questions didn't always land well. Jessica noticed that reaction shots were sometimes prioritized over analysis, and that equipment anomalies were framed more ominously in post-production than they felt in the field. Nothing was fabricated outright, but the tone was being sharpened. Uncertainty was being nudged toward implication. She pushed back quietly at first, asking for context to be added, requesting that disclaimers stay in place, suggesting that viewers deserved to know when something was unresolved rather than hinted at as definitive. To her, ambiguity wasn't a weakness, it was honesty. Field operations changed too. Investigations were occasionally extended longer than planned, not because new data was coming in, but because the episode still needed a climax. Crew members later said Jessica was often the one checking safety protocols repeatedly, confirming exit plans, and questioning why they were staying when conditions were deteriorating. One technician recalled her asking a simple question during a late-night shoot: "If nothing else happens tonight, are we okay with that?" The silence that followed told her everything. Behind the scenes, her insistence on restraint began to stand out. She wasn't refusing to investigate. She was refusing to exaggerate. And in a production environment increasingly shaped by ratings pressure, that distinction mattered. What once made Jessica invaluable, her commitment to accuracy and caution, was slowly being reframed as hesitation, as friction, as someone not fully aligned with where the show was heading. And that tension would soon stop being theoretical, because one investigation would force everything into the open and make it impossible for her to keep going as if nothing had changed. According to multiple people close to production, the moment everything changed for Jessica Chobot happened during an investigation that never aired in its original form. On paper, it was a standard assignment, a remote site with reports of unexplained activity, environmental instability, and electromagnetic interference, the kind of location Expedition X had handled before. But this time, the risks weren't theoretical. From the start, Jessica expressed concerns about the environment itself. Structural instability, unreliable communications, and a lack of clear emergency access made the location unusually dangerous. She flagged the site as high risk and requested additional safeguards before filming continued. Those requests were acknowledged and then quietly deprioritized. The pressure to proceed came down to one thing. The episode needed something to happen. As the team moved deeper into the investigation, equipment began behaving erratically. Readings spiked without explanation. Audio feeds dropped in and out. Crew members later described sudden dizziness, disorientation, and a strange sensation of pressure that none of them could easily explain. While these moments were unsettling, what disturbed Jessica most was how quickly they were reframed as atmosphere rather than warning signs. At one point, a piece of equipment failed in a way that caused a brief but serious safety incident. No one was badly hurt, but it was close enough to leave an impression. Jessica was reportedly the first to call for a pause, insisting they stop and assess before continuing. Cameras were still rolling. Later that night, she reviewed the raw footage alone. What she saw didn't match how the incident was being discussed. Thermal anomalies appeared in the same moments the equipment failed. Audio distortions coincided with physical effects on the crew. Whether it was environmental, technical, or something unknown didn't matter. What mattered was that it wasn't being treated with the seriousness it deserved. The next morning, Jessica confronted production leadership. She didn't accuse anyone of wrongdoing. She asked a direct question instead. Were they documenting what happened or reshaping it into something more dramatic than truthful? The response, according to insiders, was carefully neutral. The episode would be edited responsibly. Safety would be addressed internally. The narrative would be adjusted. That answer didn't reassure her. It confirmed her fear. For the first time, Jessica realized the issue wasn't a single investigation. It was the system deciding which parts of reality were convenient enough to show. And in that moment, she understood something else too. If she stayed, she would eventually be asked to stand in front of the camera and support a version of events she didn't believe in. And that was a line she wasn't willing to cross. After the investigation that raised serious alarms for Jessica Chobot, she expected a period of reflection, a review of what went wrong, how close the crew had come to real danger, and whether the episode should even move forward. Instead, what followed was something far more unsettling. When the first rough cuts began circulating, Jessica noticed immediately that key moments were missing. The pauses she had called for, the discussions about evacuation, the uncertainty in the data, all of it had been trimmed or reframed. What remained was a cleaner, more dramatic version of events, one that suggested tension without fully acknowledging risk. According to one post-production staffer, entire segments where Jessica questioned whether they should continue filming were marked as non-essential. Audio clips documenting crew discomfort were shortened. The equipment failure was labeled as a minor malfunction rather than a warning sign. The episode still worked as television, but it no longer worked as truth. Jessica didn't confront anyone emotionally. She went to the editing room and asked for the cut logs. When she reviewed them, she noticed something disturbing. Certain clips had been flagged for removal before the full debrief even took place. That meant decisions about what not to show were being made before the investigation had been properly analyzed. She raised this in a production call, asking why moments related to safety and uncertainty were being softened. The answer she received was careful, corporate, and revealing. Those elements were too alarming for the tone of the series. They could create unnecessary fear or imply liability. To Jessica, that reasoning missed the point entirely. If something was alarming, it deserved context, not concealment. If an investigation pushed people into danger, viewers had a right to know. Her analytical segments were shortened. More narration was shifted elsewhere. On screen, nothing appeared wrong. Off screen, she felt herself being managed. Crew members noticed it too. One assistant editor later said it felt like Jessica was being protected from herself, shielded from having too much influence over the final story. Not because she was wrong, but because she was inconvenient. This wasn't censorship in the obvious sense. It was filtration. Reality passed through a lens designed to preserve tone rather than truth. For Jessica, that realization was heavier than fear of the unknown. She could accept unanswered questions. What she couldn't accept was pretending certainty where none existed, or glossing over risk for the sake of a cleaner episode. And once she saw how easily reality could be reshaped in post-production, she knew the problem wasn't going to fix itself. The show wasn't just documenting the unexplained anymore. It was managing it. That understanding quietly pushed her closer to a decision she hadn't yet spoken out loud, but was already forming. In the weeks following the disputed edit, Jessica Chobot's concerns shifted from storytelling to something more serious: crew safety. What had once felt like occasional risk began to look like a pattern: longer shoots and unstable locations, fewer buffers built into filming schedules, decisions increasingly justified by how well a moment might land with the audience. Jessica started asking different questions, not about ratings or pacing, but about response times, about backup plans, about what would happen if someone got hurt in a place emergency services couldn't reach quickly. According to a crew medic, she once asked bluntly how many minutes it would take to extract an injured team member from a remote site if something collapsed. When she heard the answer, she reportedly fell silent. Production leadership didn't ignore her outright, but her concerns were framed as caution bordering on overreaction. After all, nothing catastrophic had happened yet. The show had always pushed into difficult environments. That was part of its identity. Jessica disagreed. She believed that survival so far didn't justify increasing risk. During planning sessions for future investigations, she began flagging sites as unacceptable unless additional safeguards were added: extra personnel, redundant communications, more conservative access limits. These requests were often met with budget constraints and time pressure. The message was clear, even if it was never stated directly. The show needed to stay agile. One meeting in particular stuck with her. A producer reportedly described a high-risk location as worth it if something finally breaks open. Jessica responded quietly, asking whether something breaking open included people. The room went still. After that, her role subtly changed. She was still respected, still on camera, but increasingly excluded from early planning conversations. Decisions were being made before she entered the room. By the time she raised concerns, the logistics were already locked in. Crew members later said it felt like two priorities were colliding. One side focused on discovery and responsibility, the other focused on momentum. What made this moment critical was that Jessica wasn't asking to stop investigating. She was asking to slow down when the line between exploration and danger blurred. To her, the unknown deserved respect, not pressure. Privately, she began confiding in a small number of colleagues that she felt the show was approaching a breaking point, not because of what they might find, but because of how far they were willing to go looking for it. That tension wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, professional, controlled, and that's what made it so dangerous. Because once safety becomes negotiable, the decision to step away stops being emotional. It becomes inevitable. The moment Jessica Chobot realized she couldn't continue didn't happen during a dramatic confrontation or a dangerous incident in the field. It happened in a conference room. During a routine production briefing for an upcoming investigation, logistics were being finalized for a remote location with known structural instability. Jessica had already reviewed the latest environmental assessments and flagged the area as high risk. She recommended additional personnel and stricter limits on how far the team should go once inside. The response she received wasn't hostile. It was procedural. The budget wouldn't allow it. The schedule couldn't support delays. The team would adapt as needed. Then someone said it. The investigation needed proximity. The episode needed stakes. Jessica didn't argue. She listened, and in that moment, she understood that the calculation had shifted. Risk was no longer something to be minimized. It was something being weighed against entertainment value. Later that evening, she returned to her hotel and began organizing her notes. Not dramatically, methodically. Field journals, emails, planning documents. She drafted a message requesting a pause in filming until safety standards and narrative boundaries could be reviewed. When the response came back, it was polite and firm. The show was moving forward. That was enough. Jessica didn't walk away out of fear or frustration. She walked away because staying would mean accepting a system where caution was treated as an obstacle. She wasn't willing to be the face of something she couldn't stand behind. 2 days later, she made the call. She would step back from filming. No public conflict, no accusations, just a line drawn quietly and permanently. And with that decision, Expedition X lost more than a host. It lost the person who had been asking whether the mission was still worth the cost. Jessica Chobot's departure didn't create chaos overnight. It created silence. On the surface, Expedition X continued. Episodes aired, investigations moved forward. Viewers were told it was a normal transition. But behind the scenes, crew members say the atmosphere shifted immediately. Meetings grew shorter. Safety discussions became streamlined instead of thorough. Decisions that once involved debate now moved quickly, often without pushback. Several longtime staff noticed that the questions Jessica used to ask were no longer being asked at all. Why are we pushing deeper? What happens if this goes wrong? Are we documenting something real or framing something dramatic? Without her in the room, those pauses disappeared. Not because the answers had improved, but because no one was pressing for them anymore. Editors later admitted that the tone of episodes subtly changed. More emphasis on reactions, less on uncertainty. Moments that would have once been framed as inconclusive were now allowed to sit closer to implication. Nothing fabricated, just a shift in balance. One crew member described it this way: "Before, we were investigating first and filming second. After she left, we were filming first and justifying it later." Jessica didn't publicly criticize the show. She didn't hint at wrongdoing, but people noticed that when asked about Expedition X in interviews, she spoke carefully. She praised the team, she respected the work, but she never spoke about the investigations the way she once had. Privately, she stayed in touch with certain crew members. When asked if she regretted leaving, her answer was always the same. "I miss the mission," she said. "I don't miss what it was becoming." Her absence didn't expose a scandal. It revealed a vacuum, and in that vacuum, the show kept going, just without the voice that had been slowing it down before it crossed the line. After stepping away, Jessica Chobot never released a tell-all. There was no expose, no podcast tour, no dramatic reveal, but people close to her say the most important things she discovered were never meant to become public footage anyway. During her final seasons, Jessica began privately documenting moments that didn't make it into episodes, not because they were unbelievable, but because they were uncomfortable. Times when the data didn't match the narrative, when equipment failures were ordinary, but later framed as something more, when fear was amplified not by the unknown, but by editing choices. She believes some mysteries lose meaning the moment they're pushed too hard. One former field researcher said Jessica kept a separate notebook during investigations, not for theories, but for boundary, places where she felt continuing would cross from exploration into provocation. She rarely spoke about it openly, but she made quiet notes when she felt the team was pressing an environment too aggressively, or when local warnings were treated as atmosphere rather than information. There was one investigation she reportedly refused to reshoot segments for, not because something terrifying happened, but because nothing happened at all. The readings were flat, the environment was stable, and she felt recreating tension would be dishonest. That footage was eventually reshaped without her involvement. That moment stuck with her. Jessica wasn't afraid of the unknown. She was wary of certainty, of pretending to understand things that might never offer clean answers. To her, the real danger wasn't what lurked in the dark. It was what happens when curiosity becomes entitlement. After leaving, she told a colleague something that never aired anywhere. Some places don't need to be solved. They need to be respected. What she refused to put on camera wasn't evidence. It was the moment when exploration turns into intrusion. And once she felt that line had blurred, she knew stepping away was the only honest choice left. Jessica Chobot didn't leave Expedition X with accusations or controversy. She left with restraint, and that restraint is exactly why her departure still echoes through the show today. In an industry driven by escalation, walking away quietly is often more disruptive than making noise. Jessica didn't expose secrets. She didn't leak footage. She simply removed herself from a process she no longer believed could stay honest. That choice forced an uncomfortable question, not just for the show, but for the entire genre. How far should investigation go before it stops being investigation? Since her exit, paranormal television has continued to grow louder, faster, and more extreme. Higher stake, bigger claim, less patience for uncertainty. In that environment, Jessica's absence feels deliberate, almost instructional. She showed that credibility isn't built by chasing answers at any cost. It's built by knowing when to stop asking. Crew members who worked with her still reference the Jessica check, a phrase used informally when discussing risk or narrative framing. It means asking whether a moment is being shown because it matters, or because it plays well on screen. Even now, her influence lingers in the margins. Jessica never said the show crossed a dangerous line, but she didn't have to. Her decision did the talking. When viewers ask why she left, the answer isn't hidden footage or paranormal terror. It's something far more unsettling. She saw where the road was heading, and she chose not to walk it. That's why her exit wasn't an ending. It was a warning, and the fact that it was delivered in silence may be the most honest thing she ever did on camera. Josh Gates was once the face of adventure television, the archaeologist turned explorer who made discovering the world's mysteries look effortless. From jungles to temples, from lost civilizations to to legendary creatures, Gates inspired millions. With his wit, curiosity, and enthusiasm, he became the modern Indiana Jones. But behind the camera-ready smile, Josh Gates's life has unraveled into tragedy. Devastating health crises from relentless travel, a marriage that crumbled under constant absence, near-death experiences leaving permanent scars, professional betrayals destroying friendship, accusations shattering his credibility. This is the heartbreaking story of a man who traveled the entire world only to lose himself completely. The tragic downfall of Josh Gates. In the mid-2000s, Josh Gates emerged as something fresh in adventure television. Born in Massachusetts in 1977, he studied archaeology and drama at Tufts University. His big break came in 2007 with Destination Truth on Sci-Fi Channel. The concept was simple: travel to remote locations investigating cryptids and paranormal phenomena. But Gates made it special with genuine knowledge, self-deprecating humor, and willingness to look foolish on camera. The show ran 5 seasons, building a devoted following. Fans loved his energy and curiosity. Josh Gates was living the dream millions wish they could live, exploring the world, getting paid for it, becoming famous. But dreams often come with hidden costs. By 2015, Josh Gates reached his career peak. Expedition Unknown premiered on Travel Channel with bigger budgets and better production. Instead of chasing monsters, Gates investigated historical mysteries, lost treasures, ancient civilizations, unsolved disappearances. His archaeology degree gave him credibility. His television experience made him engaging. His natural charisma made viewers trust him. Expedition Unknown became Travel Channel's flagship series, drawing millions of viewers. Gates appeared on talk shows, became a household name. At industry events, he was treated like royalty. Nobody could replicate his perfect blend of knowledge, humor, and passion. For a brief moment, Josh Gates seemed invincible, the adventure hero who could do no wrong. But the higher the peak, the deeper the fall. What viewers saw was adventure. What they didn't see was brutal physical toll. Josh Gates spent 250 days per year traveling, 8 to 9 months annually away from home, filming in remote, dangerous, uncomfortable locations. Over 100 countries across all 7 continents. Each location presented health risks, and Gates experienced them all. In 2011, while filming in Papua New Guinea, he contracted severe malaria that nearly killed him. Weeks hospitalized, delirious with fever. Even after recovery, recurring symptoms plagued him for years. Chronic gastrointestinal problems from contaminated food and water, parasitic infections requiring aggressive treatment, dental emergencies from lack of care, constant jet lag destroyed his sleep, leading to chronic insomnia. Gates rarely slept more than 4 hours nightly. The exhaustion was crushing. Physical injuries were worse. In 2016, filming in Peru, Gates suffered serious back injury, a slipped disc sending shooting pain down his legs. He kept filming anyway. Months of physical therapy followed. Even today, he lives with chronic pain that won't heal. A year later, exploring unstable caves, he fractured his ankle. Again, he continued filming. His body was breaking down faster than it could repair. Repeated altitude sickness at extreme elevations caused permanent cardiovascular damage. By his early 40s, medical exams revealed his heart showed wear patterns of someone 20 years older. The adventure lifestyle was literally destroying his body from inside out. But he couldn't stop. The show was his identity. Without it, who was he? While destroying his body chasing adventures, his personal life quietly fell apart. In 2014, he married Hallie Nadovich, a therapist who worked on Destination Truth. They had met while filming. Their relationship seemed like genuine love. Son Owen was born in 2016, daughter Isla in 2018. Gates spoke constantly about his family, calling them his anchor, but reality was darker. He was home perhaps 3 months yearly. Hallie essentially raised 2 children alone. Gates missed birthdays, first steps, first words. All the tiny moments that make up childhood, he wasn't there. When home, he was recovering or preparing for next expedition. Friends reported Hallie begged him to slow down, choose family over career. But Gates couldn't. The call of adventure was too strong. In 2021, the inevitable happened. Josh and Hallie quietly separated. The announcement came through brief social media statement. A year later, divorce was finalized. Custody meant Gates would see his children even less. Scheduled visits, weekends when not filming. In a 2023 interview, Gates opened up about the failure. Voice-breaking, he admitted making a choice. Career over family, adventure over home, fame over people who loved him most. Hallie had given countless chances to change, to prioritize family. Every time he chose the next expedition, she couldn't compete with his obsession. Eventually, she stopped trying. The divorce devastated Gates. It forced him to confront truth. He'd traveled the world, discovered ancient civilizations, but lost the only thing that truly mattered: his family, his home. And that loss was permanent. Josh Gates faced multiple brushes, with death leaving permanent scars. In 2017, filming in Egypt, Gates and crew explored an ancient tomb when structure collapsed. Tons of debris trapped them underground in darkness. For 4 hours they waited, oxygen growing thin, dust choking lungs. Gates believed with certainty he would die there, eventually rescued, but psychological damage was done. He developed severe PTSD and claustrophobia, panic attacks in confined spaces. For an explorer investigating caves and tombs regularly, this was catastrophic. 2 years later came another near-death experience. Deep in the Amazon, Gates participated in an indigenous ceremony involving plant medicine. He suffered severe allergic reaction, cardiovascular collapse, heart rate dangerously irregular. Emergency helicopter evacuation saved his life. 2 weeks hospitalized. Doctors said he came within hours of death, left with permanent heart arrhythmia requiring daily medication. The most damaging incident came in 2020, filming in the Himalayas. Searching for Yeti evidence, Gates lost footing on ice-covered slope, fell 30 feet down mountainside. Injuries were severe. Multiple fractured ribs, serious concussion, massive bruising. Worst damage was left arm. Nerve damage never fully healed, leaving permanent reduced sensation and chronic pain. Even today, Gates cannot fully use his left hand. These near-death experiences transformed him. The fearless explorer died in those moments. What emerged was haunted. In interviews after, you see the change. Easy confidence gone. Quick smile doesn't reach eyes. He speaks about mortality, fragility of life, moments believing he'd never see children again. Psychological scars combined with PTSD created someone constantly waiting for next disaster. Joy had gone from exploration. What remained was fear, pain, and realization. His body couldn't sustain this much longer. As Gates struggled personally, his professional life fractured. In 2020, shows transitioned from Travel Channel to Discovery Plus. Behind scenes, bitter contract disputes, accusations of broken promises. Gates was assured larger budgets, creative control, theatrical releases. Instead, content was buried on streaming with minimal promotion. Viewership plummeted. Gates felt betrayed by executives. Worse were personal betrayals. In 2021, former crew leaked behind-the-scenes footage showing different Josh Gates. Videos showed him berating staff, making unreasonable demands, creating hostile work environment. Multiple crew members came forward. Stories of verbal abuse, favoritism, taking credit for others' work. Gates issued apology, but damage was done. Image of friendly explorer shattered, replaced by someone who under pressure revealed darker personality. Industry insiders described him as territorial, difficult, someone using power to eliminate competition. Professional conflicts extended beyond his crew. Public falling outs with other television hosts. One accused Gates of blocking their show from being greenlit. Another claimed Gates stole investigation techniques. Industry insiders described him as territorial, someone seeing other shows as competition to eliminate. Once seen as friendly face of adventure TV, now viewed as someone who'd use power to protect his empire. Even longtime friendships fractured. People who worked since Destination Truth days found themselves pushed out. When they tried maintaining relationships, Gates was distant, unavailable. The isolation became complete. Professionally, Gates burned bridges throughout industry. Former allies wanted nothing to do with him. His reputation shifted from beloved explorer to difficult and toxic. In tight-knit adventure television world, that reputation spread quickly. By 2023, increasingly alone, not just personally, but professionally. The network he'd built over decades crumbled. If professional betrayals were painful, accusations about his work were devastating. In 2022, whistleblower came forward with explosive claims. Certain discoveries on Expedition Unknown had been staged. Artifacts shown being unearthed were planted by crew hours before filming. Specific accusation, ancient coins episode. Whistleblower claimed coins were purchased and deliberately placed for dramatic television moment. Gates denied allegations but couldn't provide proof of authenticity. More accusations followed. Researchers examined episodes, pointing out inconsistencies. Professional archaeologists began distancing themselves. Some publicly criticized him for prioritizing entertainment over scientific accuracy. Academic institutions previously welcoming Gates now refused participation. His credibility, foundation of entire career, was under serious attack. YouTube channels debunking episodes gained millions of views. Former fans felt betrayed. Social media became toxic. Gates deleting comments and blocking critics made things worse. Credibility crisis went beyond staged discoveries. Critics questioned Gates's archaeological credentials themselves. Yes, he had Tufts degree, but had he ever practiced archaeology professionally before television? Answer was no. Entire career in entertainment. Never worked real excavation outside filming. Never published academic papers. Never contributed to archaeological knowledge meaningfully. This revelation hit hard. Gates built reputation on being archaeologist turned television host. Reality was someone with archaeology degree going straight into entertainment. The distinction mattered. His authority was based on performance, not genuine expertise. Once viewers understood, they saw shows differently. Not authentic explorations, but entertainment loosely based on real history. Impact on legacy was profound. 2 decades building reputation as someone bringing real exploration to television. Now, that legacy was tainted. No longer invited to speak at universities. Not asked to participate in conferences. Respect from professional community evaporated. By 2023, cumulative weight became too much. Health problems, divorce, near-death experiences, professional controversies, attacks on credibility. Josh Gates reached breaking point. Unprecedented for his reliability, Gates suddenly canceled multiple filming commitments. Productions scheduled for months put on hold. Crew sent home. Something was very wrong. News leak. Gates checked into private mental health facility, diagnosed with severe depression and anxiety disorder. According to people close, he'd become suicidal. The pressure, guilt, pain pushed him to see ending his life as only way out. 6 weeks intensive treatment, completely off social media, unreachable. When he emerged, visibly changed. Energy was gone. Looked older, tired, defeated. In raw emotional interview, Gates opened up about mental health crisis, PTSD from near-death experiences, nightmares of collapsed tombs and falling mountains, panic attacks without warning, crushing guilt over missing children's lives while chasing fame. Gates confessed to serious alcohol problem during darkest period, using drinking to cope with stress, pain, overwhelming failure. Started as wine to help sleep despite chronic insomnia. It escalated, soon drinking heavily every night, on location, between filming, alone in hotel rooms where nobody knew him. Alcohol provided temporary escape from unbearable thoughts. He spoke about contemplating suicide, times when pain felt so overwhelming that ending it seemed rational. Standing in hotel rooms, looking out windows, seriously considering jumping, having detailed plans. Only thing stopping him was thinking about his children. Idea they'd grow up knowing father killed himself, that they'd blame themselves. That tiny thread of connection, though he barely saw them, kept him alive. The interview was devastating. Not the Josh Gates millions knew. Not confident explorer with quick joke. A broken man, barely holding together, speaking about desire to die. Treatment helped him survive, pulled back from edge, but didn't fix him. Depression remained. Anxiety persisted. As Gates struggled with mental health, his career began final collapse. By 2024, numbers were undeniable. Expedition Unknown viewership dropped 60% from peak. Discovery Plus began cutting budgets. Fewer international locations, smaller crews, cheaper production. Show once spanning globe, now filming closer to home with reduced quality. Expedition X spinoff was quietly canceled. Other projects shelved. Network executives stopped returning calls. Message clear. Josh Gates no longer the draw he once was. Industry rumors painted him as difficult, unreliable after mental health crisis. Perception he couldn't be counted on. Lost hosting gigs for special events, passed over for new shows. Financial impact severe. Divorce settlement and child support drained savings. Medical bills accumulated. Reduced income meant Gates couldn't maintain lifestyle. Forced to sell Los Angeles home, move to smaller property. Man who traveled first class now flew economy. Reports of Gates at fan conventions doing paid meet and greets felt desperate. Desperate to remain relevant. Gates attempted reinvention. Started podcast featuring exploration stories and interviews. Never gained traction. Critics accused recycling old stories, offering nothing new. Audience numbers disappointing. Attempted YouTube channel but faced stiff competition. Younger creators producing content with production values rivaling television. Channel struggled gaining subscribers. Videos received modest views. Comment sections filled with criticism rather than adoration. He pitched new television concepts to networks. Different formats, different approaches. Network after network passed. They didn't see value. Adventure documentary space was crowded. Gates no longer had draw to stand out. Repeated rejections, humiliating devastating for someone once courted by competing networks. Friends described him as increasingly bitter and resentful, complaining about younger hosts, less qualified, less deserving, blamed networks for not supporting him, blamed changing tastes, blamed everyone except himself. Josh Gates, once known for humility, became someone consumed by bitterness. As career collapsed, Gates found himself increasingly isolated. Early Destination Truth crew no longer spoke to him. Years of difficult behavior, controversies, leaked footage burned those bridges. When Gates reached out, messages went unanswered. At industry events, people avoided him. Professional relationships throughout television deteriorated. Producers saw him as toxic. Executives viewed him as liability. Even other adventure hosts kept distance. Reputation as difficult, unreliable, past prime became impossible to escape. But most heartbreaking isolation was from his own children. Custody meant seeing them few times a month, brief visits feeling strained and awkward. Years of absence created unbridgeable gap. His son and daughter barely knew him. To them, essentially a stranger occasionally appearing, trying too hard to connect. Gates admitted children felt like strangers to him. He'd missed so much. He didn't know who they were, their interests, personalities, daily routines, all foreign. He was tourist in their lives, allowed brief visits but never truly belonging. Even remaining personal friendships withered. People exhausted by his negativity and bitterness, put off by drinking, which, despite treatment, remained problem. Simply didn't know how to help someone pushing everyone away. Social media, once connecting warmly with fans, became minefield. Posts received more criticism than support. When sharing anything personal, he was attacked. When promoting work, people reminded him of controversies, eventually posted less frequently. By 2025, Josh Gates existed in profound loneliness he'd created. Lived alone in modest home, no partner, no close friends checking in regularly, minimal contact with children. Man who traveled every corner of Earth, met thousands, been surrounded by crews and fans, was utterly alone. Recent photographs show change starkly. Gone is vibrant explorer. In his place, man looking older than years. Worn by health problems, trauma, regret. Ready smile now looks forced. Painted for camera, but never reaching eyes. Not the Josh Gates millions love. This is what remains after everything stripped away. Broken man living with consequences of choices he can never undo. Looking at Josh Gates today, picture is undeniably tragic. He still technically has show. Expedition Unknown continues limping along with drastically reduced viewership and budget, but feels like ghost of what it was. Gates going through motions, lacking passion and energy that once made work compelling. Health continues deteriorating. Chronic pain persists. Heart arrhythmia requires constant management. Mental health struggles remain ongoing battle. Career effectively over. Opportunities dried up. Public moved on to newer faces. Few projects remind people how far he's fallen. Financially nowhere near stability once enjoyed. Most tragic is permanent damage to relationship with children. Those early years missed are gone forever. Foundation built through daily presence, he forfeited that. While he may have visitation rights, he's lost being their dad meaningfully. Josh Gates once said, "Adventure is worthwhile in itself, that pursuing unknown justifies any sacrifice." Today, those words echo with bitter irony. He discovered what lay at pursuit's end. Not treasure or glory. Loss. Loss of health. Loss of family. Loss of credibility. Loss of himself. He explored entire world but lost his way home. The tragic downfall of Josh Gates is complete.